Hello to my fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. We're entering eclipse season, the time of year that the dragon eats the sun. You'll find your horoscopes for your rising sign in the timestamps listed below. Hello Aries, welcome to eclipse season. I'm your host, my name's Uma, and I want to be really positive and nurturing and kind and gentle with you during this horoscope, because we're standing at a precipice, Aries, and a solar eclipse in your first house is something to look forward to, I would say. It's definitely something that is kind of out of your control. As much as we look to the sky and try and figure out how best we can work with the energy that's being presented and learn the patterns and the rhythms of our universe, and during eclipse season, we have to expect the unexpected, and that's the truth. To have eclipses in your first house, which is here, and your seventh house of relationships, you're going to need to speak to your Taurus rising friends about this. They're probably the people with the most recent experience of what these eclipses might bring for themselves and for their partners. They're the people that they hold very close in their lives. Now, this eclipse is called a hybrid eclipse because you can see the sun and the moon are here at 29 degrees. They both share this degree point in Aries. This is forming a new moon, but the dragon's head that I've drawn here, and there's the dragon's tail, this is at 4 degrees of Taurus, and so it's an out of sign eclipse. Essentially, the lunar nodes, which is another name for the dragon's head and the dragon's tail, are the points of interception where the moon gets in the way of the Earth's elliptic around the sun. And this is when we have either a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse. The last time that there was eclipses playing out in Aries and in Libra was in the year 2015. So it might be great for you to gently go back and have a little think about what was happening in your life in 2015. What was your sense of self? How was that developing? How were you coming into contact with something that is sort of sitting below your ego, into your spirituality, your soul's purpose, your reason for being here, and also in the people that you held near and dear? What kinds of changes were you going through, perhaps in the way that you related to people back then? And nothing repeats itself, you know what I mean? Nothing's not going to happen exactly the way that it used to. But if it's any comfort to sort of prepare you for the next 18 months, because as the dragon's head leaves Taurus and enters Aries, we'll be dealing with this sort of energy every eclipse season for the next 18 months or so. The reason that the ancients said the dragon's head is because they believed that the dragon was eating the sun. And so there was a lot of fear that was attached to eclipses back in the old days. It was sort of a feeling of being smited by the gods or worried about the powers that be being unhappy with us. I think that now, to be aware that this is happening and aware that this is about to happen, I think that we can relax into it and we can meet it if and when it does arise. So I want you to think back to a month ago when we had that new moon in Aries, which was over here at the 0 degree point of your first house, of your house of the soul. 1 month ago, if you were listening to these horoscopes back then, what were your wishes? What did you hope to discover? Because we can sort of see here that this eclipse might bring about those results, or might bring about that enlightenment or that clarity sooner than perhaps we maybe have thought. It's almost like a super-powered, supercharged new moon. I have a feeling that on the 20th of April, or the 19th if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, I would be very surprised if there wasn't some sort of light bulb moment for you, Aries. If you've been feeling a bit thrown off course or a bit lost in the wilderness, then I would look to this date, the 19th / the 20th of April, as a time that you can sort of sit back and allow what presents itself to present itself. There's a great sort of stitching together of these two signs, excuse me, at this eclipse. Because the node is here, the dragon's head is here, but the moon is just on the very tip of Taurus. We'll go into Taurus season the same day. It's a very unusual thing for the eclipse to be sort of happening in the same sign. It doesn't happen very often. It can be called a black moon when there's two lunations in the same sign in the same cycle. So as much as it might feel foreboding, or as much as it might be quite shocking, I do think that it's going to be beneficial for you, Aries. I think that there's things that you're learning about yourself right now that you just can't deny any longer. And there's journeys that you wish to take. There's roads that you wish to travel down that are calling your name. And it might be in opposition to how the folks in your 7th house, your realm of relationship and love, and this is where we can actually probably look at the tarot for guidance, because this lunation at 29 degrees of Aries, now remember the system of decans, so there's 1, 2, 3 decans in Aries. The tarot card for this last decan of Aries is the 4 of Wands. So we manifested last month, didn't we? With the 2 of Wands in our company, we opened the gate. We stepped forward through the portal. And now this eclipse is bringing us the 4 of Wands, which is joyful. You can see how beautiful and warm this card feels. You can see this figure right here is in rapture. Step forward, Aries, and claim your identity. Tell us who you are. Stand strong and proud and unashamed no matter what is expected of you in this area. No matter what you come up against in this area, you can probably trust that as the dragon's tail moves into the 7th house, then everything that needs to fall away will do so. It's going to melt away with or without our input. And so the reason that we look at these charts, the reason that we sort of keep track of what's going on upstairs is that so when the shift happens, we can have something to refer back to. Now, I think eclipses in the 7th house might bring with it some pain. And that's part of life. I think that eclipses in the 7th house provide space, a clearing for you to be your authentic self, that has got less to do with expectation, that has less to do with roles that you've been allotted or that have been defined for you. It's more to do with you standing in your honest truth and proclaiming who it is that you believe yourself to be. What is your motivation? In the esoteric philosophy of astrology, every single sign around the zodiac has a sacred mantra. And they all talk to the significance or the purpose, maybe of each sign as it pertains to our soul's purpose. So this is for Aries rising specifically. The Aries rising mantra is, I come forth And from the plane of mind, I rule. This is a reminder for you, my Aries rising, that Mercury, the planet of intellect and intelligence, is your soul guide. We know that on a personality level, Mars, the planet of action and fire and fury and conflict sometimes, is a great guide for you because that gives you the confidence to stand up and to move ahead. But I do wish to remind you that Mercury, on that deeper level, rules your sign, guides your sign. Right now, Mercury is in your second house of your access to material security, your resources, how you intend to take care of yourself and provide yourself with things that you need. So right now, Mercury is here. It's unconventional what you're about to step forward into. I really respect that, Aries. It's very difficult to live outside of convention or the box or the routine that we're all pressured into fitting into, because that's easier, because that keeps us controlled, that keeps us in confine. But you're too bold and you're too brash and you're too brilliant to live within those confines. So at this eclipse, I wonder what is going to reveal itself to you. Who can you trust? Who can you talk to? Who are your people? You're about to step into a journey over the next 18 months, and that journey, the destination of that journey, is to find your people, to find the communities and the groups and the lovers, the intimate partners that you can be your absolute self. I will remind you that Chiron is still here in your first house too, and we're just coming off that beautiful wave of healing. In fact, Jupiter, the planet of expansion and optimism, is in fact in conjunction with this eclipse. It's a power surge, a power outage. Someone's pulled the plug, and there's a reset that's about to happen for you, Aries. You're bold enough to take charge of this, and as the sun eclipses and then enters Taurus into your second house, we're going to focus for the next month on your autonomy, on your resources, how you are going to keep this thing running. We've got a new moon in Taurus to look forward to. We haven't had one of them for the last 18 months. So you have access and power over this. When the dragon's head enters into your first, you kind of have to bow down. Submit's a difficult word for you, Aries. I wouldn't say submit. I'd probably say allow. Open up. Let it come. Let it flow through you. I'm going to pull you, I think, just one card. One card that I'd like you to keep in your pocket and refer back to. It's like a talisman for you, Aries. That card is the Six of Swords. Create a magical boundary around you. Remember that Mercury is your soul ruler. Remember your intelligence. Remember your ability to create boundary. Shield yourself as you go and search out what you know is rightfully yours. Leave spaces of emotional turbulence. Leave spaces of drowning, sinking, and go forward into clear, calm, beautiful, crystal clear water, and know that you're being protected the whole way. know that Mercury is your guide and that you can trust your brain. I don't care what's been said to you about your intelligence or the way that you absorb information being different to the others. Your neurodivergence is stunning. And we need folks like you to create diversity. Humanity won't survive without diversity, but you need to go and be amongst people that respect that. Spaces where you can be vulnerable as well as brave and strong. That's your reading, Aries. I love you very much. Do head over to umaruby.com and book your birth chart reading with me. I'd love to meet you if I haven't already. And if you'd like to put some money in the tip jar, it's very much appreciated at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. I'm going to be with you and guiding you through this next chapter, Aries, and I can't wait to see what comes of it. You take good care. Bye. Hello Leo, welcome to Eclipse season. We're about to experience a hybrid solar eclipse happening on Thursday, April the 20th at 2:16 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. And this is an uncommon period of time we're going through in terms of astrology. And well, you tell me, in terms of life itself. Anyhow, a month ago, at the Aries new moon, when the sun and the moon were here at 0 degrees of Aries, I was encouraging you to think big. I was encouraging you to think about how you can expand your mind and how you can put your philosophical, spiritual lessons into practice and into the public arena, how you wish to share what it is that you know so far, how it is that you hope that your interpretation of the cosmos lands for other people. There may have been some plans to travel and to seek out a teacher or a guide in that process. There may have been a moment for you to sort of have your finger hovering over the publish button. And so this was really bountiful, this was really beautiful, this was quite lofty and sort of academic as well, wasn't it? And then we had the Libra full moon over here in your third house. And this is when the conversation shifted to folk magic and to the kind of, and you can see the opposite of something so structured and so formal and so intellectual. I've drawn a dragon. Here is the head, and the tail's over here. And so this is the north node and the south node of the moon. These are the points of interception where the moon gets in the way of the Earth's journey around the sun. This is where eclipses take place. And because the sun and the moon are at the 29th degree of Aries, the final degree of Aries, in close proximity to this interception point, this is why we're having an eclipse. So it's almost as if there's some sort of bridge that's occurring between your 9th house, which is where we expand our mind and learn and teach, and your 10th house, your career, your most public self, your legacy. I like to use the language of the bridge here because I think that I want to bring in the Hierophant card for us to have a little think about. The word Hierophant looks a lot like and has etymology related to the word hierarchy, doesn't it? When we think of those things, we think of a top-down structure, or we think of an apex of which we need to reach. We need to climb to the top of that mountain and shout from the rafters what we know, and to have subjects that will listen to us. I think modern religion has that all ass backwards, and I think that this kind of structure, when it comes to breaking free in a spiritual sense, is not helping anybody. We know the damage of a self-professed guru, don't we, Leo? We know the damage of vulnerable people sitting cross-legged at the feet of someone that says that they can save their souls if they just do this, sign on the bottom line, pay here, devote yourself to my teachings. We know that damage. We also know the damage of thou shalt not. We know the damage of this is the rule book, this is by the book, the spiritual guide for our path forward. That separates, that divides and separates. And for folks that are really on the path, they know that our job here on this planet right now is to bridge that gap. There's no separation that occurs. And so I'm doing this because I want you to think about your ninth house, which I adore and enjoy. In fact, there's a lot of important information in my ninth house on my natal chart. But it's my job to recognize the link between the ninth and the third. Academia and lofty spiritual philosophical lessons and folk magic, lessons that are shared via voice in privacy, with an encouragement for the querent or the person sitting in front of you to recognize and understand that the power is within them. We don't stand on the mountaintop with our stone tablets. The 10 Commandments are not ours to follow, and they're not ours to give as well. This is where I think the true essence of the Hierophant comes into play. The Hierophant is but a bridge. They bridge the unconscious spirit to the waking world. They keep their channel open and they allow that movement to flow through them. And what comes out of their mouth, out of the palms of their hands, out of their eyes, is something pure and something profoundly healing, and something that includes us all. We don't have to change who we are. We don't have to defend against judgment by adding more judgment to the plate. I think that there's a lot of language, particularly in New Age circles, that can be really damaging for folks that are feeling vulnerable, that think that there's something wrong with them, that they're defective in some way, and that if they live in a certain way or they buy a certain product, then they'll be saved, and then they'll be living the righteous path. They'll be on the path truly and fully. We know, as folks that probably are on some sort of path, that it's a dirt road. And we've just got to follow our guide. Along the way, we find a guide in the Hierophant, we find a bridge, we find someone that we can trust, that is kind and caring and empathetic and sits with us for a time. And they can read our chart, they can read our cards, they can read our runes, our energy in our body, and they can feel it, they can feel the pain points, and they can be kind to us. And they can work on the channel moving forward. They don't tell us that we're wrong. They don't tell us that we're doing the wrong thing, or that we're not welcome in this space, or that the path to here takes a certain journey and sacrifice. All of that stuff is so tempting, you know, when you're trying to find your place in the world, when you're trying to find your way through, and you think that you've got the way. It's so tempting to be like, follow me, come on. And that's great, and I want us all to continue to do that. I also want us to say, come on, follow the way. Where do you, let's go together. So at this eclipse, this dragon's head is about to chomp on down on the sun. In the ancient days, the reason that the nodes are called the dragon's head and the dragon's tail is because the ancient folks used to think that a dragon was eating the sun at times of eclipse, and they thought, oh shit, we've done something wrong. What have we done to displease the gods? What have we done to smite them? And there was a lot of fear attached to eclipse time. And you can see that living in fear of being wrong, of stepping the wrong way, that fear was capitalized on by contemporary religion, by the structures that we see now as being the ones in power. The holy people at the very top of the apex, looking down to their subjects and subjugating them. This is not what we're doing. And so as this dragon's head gently moves into your 9th house, this is a hybrid eclipse, so we can see that bridge between this and this. We can see the temptation of this and this too, can't we? You're going to, with open heart and open arms, receive what is coming for you and what is ready and waiting for you in your life as a philosopher. You're going to remark upon the importance of the dragon's tail too, which is wrapped up in and around the karmic past. Bad karma and good karma is something, another tool of language that is used to keep people in fear, to have them think that they've done something wrong in a past life and therefore in this life these are the lessons. How awful for someone to get their head around, that's doing their best, that's living consciously, to think, oh, it's just bad karma, it's because I was a terrible person in a past life and I've got what's coming to me. How awful. We know that that isn't the truth. We know that in this work that we do, this healing work, it's an invitation. It's a palm out. We hold our hand out, our palm facing upwards. And we invite folks to put their hand in ours. And we hold it with warmth. And we tell them that we love them and that they're okay. And that they've done nothing wrong. And if that they feel that they've stepped this way or that way or the other way, if there's reparations to be made, if there's apologies to be sent through, then we let them know that they can do that. But they mustn't live with a weight around their shoulders or around their neck on behalf of their ancestors, that they've done something terrible and that where they've come from is a scourge and that they're not welcome here. That's preaching, man. We don't want a preacher. We only want a preacher that sings the word of love and connection. That's why we want a preacher. That's why we love the preacher. They preach in love. They're not preaching judgment. It's not up to us. So at this eclipse, there's going to be an influx of potentially maybe eyes on you, or there's going to be an extra channel, extra emphasis on what it was that you were manifesting over here at 0 degrees. My advice to you, Leo, is to remember what you're in it for. Remember why you're doing the work that you're doing. Remember that you wish to connect. You wish to find folks that you can show that you care for them, and that you love them and you believe them, because you want that back for yourself as well. We're resisting against all of this language that has kept us so oppressed and so in pain. And we're standing at the precipice of a time that allows us the potential to release that shame and that fear and that guilt. So don't create more of it. I want to pull you one card, I think, Leo, and I want this to be a little talisman for you as we journey forward. I want you to express yourself in that beautiful, vibrant way that you do. You do it from your heart. Leo rules the heart chakra. So every action, every movement is coming from love, isn't it? I want you to remember that, babe. And you got the Two of Cups. Because that's the point. That's what you're doing all of this for us to come together. No division, no separation, no judgment. The healing power when we hold hands with one another is what we're in it for. Remember this. This is your work. This is your philosophy. This is your guiding light. We're all going to come together real soon. I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it. It's going to be a moment where we get to bask in the glory of what we've achieved because we act from love. Take care, Leo. I love you heaps. I'm going to be back with you in 2 weeks to describe the final hurrah of the dragon's tail. The last lunar eclipse for some time in Scorpio in your 4th house will be coming for us. So we'll get to set it free and then relax into this idea of the dragon existing in your 9th and your 3rd. Powerful stuff, important stuff. I'm a Pisces rising, so I'm just experiencing the release of that now. And what I've really come to learn about what it is that I'm preaching and what I hope my message is. And I hope that it's translated and received in the way in which I intended it to be received. Take care, girl. Love you. Bye. Hello, Sagittarius. How you doing? Welcome to Eclipse season. We're about to enter the void, as it were. Well, no, maybe not the void, but we've got some things to talk about, and I think that we've got some great solutions to work through. I like the look of this chart, Sagittarius. There's going to be some nice things that materialize in your life. I can feel it. But let's have a look at this dragon first of all. So you can see I've drawn a dragon's head here in Taurus, and there's a tail over here in Scorpio. And so at 4 degrees of each sign is the point where the moon intercepts the Earth's ellipse around the sun. This is where eclipses happen. Over here in Aries, the sun and the moon are at 29 degrees of the sign. So they're in close conjunction with this dragon's head. And so we're about to experience a solar eclipse in Aries. If you cast your mind back to about a month ago when we were at 0 degrees of Aries, the sun and the moon, and I gave you the horoscope about your creativity, about the way that you express yourself and what you hope to put voice to from your perspective, how you see life and how you wish to share that with an open heart. And I said that maybe there might be some results that materialize sooner than we think. This is because the sun has moved from here to here, the moon has moved from here to here. And we're catching 3 lunations in one sign. That doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes it's called a black moon or a blue moon, I think. I think that the time is now for you to press the button and to say yes to what it is that you've been concocting, Sagittarius, what you've been thinking about, how you've been relating to life through art and through expression is about to receive a massive deluge, or almost like a power outage is some way you can think about it as well. Think about the physicality of an eclipse, of the sun disappearing for a time, the moon disappearing for a time. It's full on. The reason that I've drawn a dragon is because in the ancient times, folks used to believe that a dragon was eating the sun. And so there was a lot of fear attached to eclipse time. There was a worry that the gods were smiting humankind and that they were unhappy and that there was a curse, all of that sort of language. As we evolve, we know that that's sort of not the case, but we can look to eclipse times as a period, especially when it's a solar eclipse. It's like a supercharged new moon. It's like there's an extra portal that's open and an influx of energy into this part of your chart. So if you're a Sagittarius rising, Aries rules the 5th, which is how you express yourself creatively. Now, each sign can be broken up into 3 decans, remember? And each decan of the sign, 10-degree wedges, have a tarot card that speaks to each section. The tarot card for the final decan of Aries is the 4 of Wands. 1111, you're on the right path, says Jennifer. So it's happening again. You're on the right path, Sagittarius, and I feel that over the next period of time, I would say probably like the next 18 months or so, probably longer, but there's going to be a drive for you to create. There's going to be the next chapter of your body of work that is going to show itself to you in this time. The language is going to come to you. You're going to find the inspiration to create. Your work might take a different turn. We can never be sure with eclipses, you know, sometimes it swaps things out. There was a line of thinking that we were on that a fork in the road appears. So whatever it is, I think prepare yourself, but also remember everything that we've gone through this month and the healing that we've been able to experience. I remember that 3 of Swords over in Libra just 2 weeks ago and how confronting that may have been. And this is the 11th house, the house of humanity and the human collective, the sorrow that maybe you felt quite palpably in regard to that sense, that area of life, when we look out and we want to hold hands with the other and we can feel the pain of other people and feel what they're going through, how they're being subjugated, how they're being treated so cruelly and so unkindly. Well, we're back to Aries. We're back to how you're going to express unity, Sagittarius. It's very specific to what you know. It's very specific. Your visions are very specific to your mind alone. The only way that we can feel how you feel is if you express it. And I think that art creativity is a beautiful way to do it. And it's valuable now more than ever. In times of strife and sorrow and struggle, in times when there is such political division and hatred present, the most beautiful art comes from periods like this. I don't know if you know much about visual art and painting, but The Weimar Republic is a period of time in art history that I look back and the portraits that were made during that period of time, the way that the eye shifted, the way that the gesture of the hand of the artist changed, the way that humanity was expressed in visual language was quite unique and unlike anything that had been seen before. And this happened at the dawning, at the precipice of World War II, the Third Reich, that hideous period of time that we'd all much rather forget. So you can see that globally there was tension, globally there was this feeling of sorrow and fear. And the artists were the ones that painted what they really saw. They painted humanity as they saw it. They engaged in the cabaret. They engaged in self-expression. And so as this dragon shifts from your 12th house and your 6th house, the bridge between your conscious and unconscious life, between reality and fantasy, as this shifts to here, you're going to realize that you have the tools to express that. And you've got the tools to express and to speak, not on behalf of or not for the other, but you're going to join chorus with the group. The voice of dissent, the voice of rising up, the voice of love. Because I really believe that that's the only thing that's going to get us through any of this stuff that we're faced with, is love. We have to have faith in the human condition. We have to have faith in the species itself, you know. We have to remember what drives us to self-express. We're trying to translate the world around us. We're trying to say it how we see it. And so when this dragon moves, I feel that there's going to be maybe a bit of short-circuiting. It's going to feel a little bit unstable for a time. And for the next 18 months, there's not going to be a great deal of input that we have in Aries. We're going to have to sit back and allow the universe to do its work, allow the cosmos to do its work. We won't manifest at a new moon in Aries. This is our last hurrah for some time this month, so we've got to make it count. And this eclipse is going to bear the results of the work that we were doing 1 month ago. I think there's a beautiful series it's a podcast that Björk's released about creation, and she's talked about the album covers of her body of work as in some sense being tarot cards, being portals into a world. That's how she creates something. She also talks about a beautiful philosophy of hers that 3 years is a period of time of kind of things. She counts her life in threes. That there's the gestation period and the birthing period and the releasing period that all happens in 3 years. I'm not sure why that this is important for me to say in this reading, Sagittarius, but you take from that what you need to. But this eclipse is going to be a surge to this house. I could imagine that sometimes you might feel reluctant to express yourself in a climate that has not only quite obvious oppressive structures in place, quite obvious pain and hatred and division, but also in identity politics too. On a micro level, there is a dissonance and a disparity between groups that we think would probably be in collaboration or in cahoots with one another. So I think that everyone is trying to voice themselves, everyone is trying to stand up and have themselves be heard, which is so powerful when you feel that you're being policed in that area and that you might not be the one to stand up and say something. I reckon this eclipse is sort of like jolting you out of that idea. It's like, no, we need you, Sagittarius. We need you. We need your input. We need for you to tell us how you see it, to listen to how you hear it. You've got to tell us, Sagittarius. You can't feel that you need to sit this one out. The eclipses will be happening between the 5th and the 11th. So for the next 18 months or so, this is going to be a focus, and the message in this polarity is to let it happen. So make note of what shows up for you at this eclipse. Make note of what is brought into your attention, what inspiration has struck and truly struck. And then I think go with that. My money's on that. That's the right idea, Sag. I'm going to pull one card, and I want you to use this card as a talisman. So I want you to just hang on to this and maybe remember this card if ever you kind of feel self-conscious again in this creative process. Kind of, if you can look at the eclipses as nothing more than you're actually in the creative zone, you're in the flow, Sag. And I want you to look at this card if ever you feel blocked. You got the Knight of Cups. So you got an energy of absolute truth and vulnerability. The Knight of Cups doesn't mince words. They have an offer and they give it freely, and they say what's on their mind. They try and expel what they're feeling. They try and share it. The Knight of Cups is on a very, very steady march to give an offering of love and connection. In a time where we can feel so separated and dissonant and disparate from other people, this offer is clear and true and coming from a valuable space of vulnerability. So maybe there's an extra injection of your vulnerability in your creative work, in your self-expression that you might see coming up. You might think to yourself, I shouldn't give so much of myself or tell so much, reveal so much of myself. Through revealing that part of you, Sagittarius, I think you're going to find even greater connection to a sense of humanity and community. To the human species, your vulnerability is a gift. So don't think that it's not worth anything, because it's worth so much. So if ever you're feeling self-conscious, remember the message from the Knight of Cups. That's your reading, Sagittarius. I love you very, very much. I will be back with you in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about the final lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So this is your 12th house. This is your access to the magical realm, unspeakable, unknowable. Maybe some of those dreams that you've been having will come into light, come into focus. There might be one more jolt of, well, that was spooky. But from there, we'll know why. You can probably feed some of those messages into your creative work too. Take care. I love you very much. If you'd like your birth chart read by me, you can head to umaruby.com, or you can always throw some money in the tip jar at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. I love you very much, Sagittarius. You take care. Bye.